So in one of my previous videos about writing a children's book, I talked about it in the very broad sense, from writing to illustrations to editing and publishing. But in today's video, we're going to be going a little bit more in depth into the writing process and really talk about what makes a children's book engaging and the type of things you should think about when you are actually writing the children's book. If you want weekly videos on writing, book publishing, and book marketing, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload. Hello everyone, and my name is Lynn. I'm an author, book cover designer, and the creator of the Book Launch Planner. In today's video, we're really talking about the actual writing that goes into a children's book. Now, I will say all the advice that I'm talking about today is advice that I've compiled from my beta readers for my newest book, Mr. Moon's Big Move. You can pre-order Mr. Moon's Big Move now, and when you pre-order, you get a few cool little swag items that will be included in your order. And like I said, when I wrote it, I talked to a lot of different beta readers in the writing process to make sure that it was kid-friendly. And those beta readers were mainly parents of small children or teachers of small children. So all that advice is taken from them. So with that said, let's jump into it. First up is sentence structure. When you're writing your book, you want to think about what age the book is for. Now, a lot of the advice I'm talking about today is assuming that your book is for the younger child. Typically, your children's book is ages 3 and up, so you want to think of that when you're writing the book. So when it comes to sentence structure, usually the simpler the better. So look at your sentence length, look at the sentence structure, see if it's complex, and if it is, see if there's any words you can delete to just simplify it even better. You just want to make sure that the book is easy to read, and the simpler the sentences, the easier it is for a kid to remember it, and they'll be able to learn easier from it. Next up is sound. Now, kids love when adults make funny sounds. So basically, what I'm saying is that a child will not be the one reading the picture book. It will be the parent that will be reading the picture book to the child, so kids absolutely love when their parent has to make funny sounds. I have a few examples of this in Mr. Moon's Big Move, and you can see that when it's off in the corner. When Moon is scratching on his scratching post, you have the scratch, scratch, scratch sound, and then there's another page where Mr. Moon is using his potty for the first time, and he's going out of relief. So we have that over here as well. So those are just a few fun things that you can throw into your book to make it that much more engaging. What fun and cute elements can you add to your children's book to make it more engaging? Let me know in the comments down below. And it doesn't have to be limited to an animal sound or like a cat scratching on furniture. It could be a boom or ta-da or anything that is an exclamation. Another thing you can consider is patterns or repetition in your text. Now, patterns and repetition can come in a few different forms. Now, you can see a lot in books made for really young kids when the pattern is something like colors, like every page is about a different color and they repeat that color over and over on that page. So that's an example of repetition. Whereas a pattern could be rhyming. Some kids' books are written and they are entirely full of rhymes. It's really about the style you want to choose. Another example of repetition is, say, if you give a mouse a pancake. Over and over in that book we see a mouse getting something, and then because of that he wants something else. And that's an example of repetition. It's not quite as obvious as the other two examples I talked about, but it's still repetition. When you have things like patterns or repetition, kids tend to learn that easier. Another thing to consider is the size of the words. Now, I'm not talking about how big the word is, and yes, obviously, when you're writing a kid's book, you should not use big words that the kid won't know, but I'm talking about the text size. So when an adult is reading the picture book to their child, odds are the child is reading over their shoulder. So while of course an adult can read smaller text, you want the text to be big and readable so the kid can follow along and hopefully learn how to read it himself. So make sure that the text is big, bold, but there's also spacing between all the words so they aren't too jumbled close together. Last but not least, you need a clear beginning, middle, and end. So even though it's a children's book, you still need to have that character arc of a problem being presented and then somehow that problem is being solved. If you look at your children's book and you feel like there isn't a clear beginning, middle, and end, then you may need to reevaluate the plot of your book and figure out how you can add in a problem and then make sure that that problem is resolved. Now, of course, make sure the problem is resolved. In novels, it's fun to end a book in a cliffhanger, but in a children's book, you don't want to end it in a cliffhanger because it needs to be resolved. Children's books tend to work a little bit differently in that way. In novels, you use a cliffhanger so they want to read the next book in the series, but for children's book, you want it to be resolved so the child feels that it's resolved, and if your book just happens to be a series, they'll want to read the next book in the series just because they like the characters or the illustrations. That is it for this week's video. I do want to give a big shout out to this week's patron of the week, Sophia Oak. Sophia is currently working on a sci-fi fantasy, so I'm going to read real quickly what her work in progress is all about. So her book is about a mission to the moon 20 years after a failed mission where a group of the best astronauts were lost in mysterious circumstances. For one of the best guys in the field, Zara, it's personal. Her father went on the mission when she was only 2 years old. The team of young astronauts will discover more than they ever imagined, not only about the real circumstances of the previous mission, but also what those who organized the mission actually wanted to achieve. So if you want to learn more about Sophia and her work in progress, be sure to check her out on Instagram. It will be linked down below. If you want to be one of my featured patrons of the week, be sure to head over to Patreon where you can unlock cool and exclusive content like videos, podcasts, and more. You can also sign up for my newsletter, and when you sign up you get access to webinars, printables, and excerpts of my books. That is it for today's video. If you want to learn more about writing a children's book and everything that goes into it, be sure to check out my playlist right over here. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week.